Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning. You better take warning. Take warning. You better do good. Let your light shine bright. Let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. The evil that men do lives after them. The evil that men do lives after them. Your evil today will blight your tomorrow. So do good today and avoid your sorrow. Take warning. You better take warning. Take warning. You better do good. Let your light shine bright. Let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning. You better take warning. Take warning. You better do good. Let your light shine bright. Let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. The evil that men do lives after them. The evil that men do lives after them. Your evil today will blight your tomorrow. So do good today and avoid your sorrow.
Take the message, everybody.
Take warning. You better take warning. Take warning. You better do. Take warning. You better take warning. Take warning.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Killian Mall, 162 Lamaha Street, in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins Firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins Firm.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
All right. Hey, guess what? Good evening. Let's get straight down to business. It is Friday the 29th of Gosh, the 29th of July. How are you guys doing? Lots of things we want to talk about, right? We want to put the propaganda aside. We want to put the PR stunts aside and so forth and break things down for you. Like when you get up as a little child, I recalled a little boy in the quarantine, or I guess probably has Google quarantine. He knows what's going on with quarantine and so forth. But when he comes on, Tom Anderson, I'll ask him to pronounce that place, quarantine and Borbies, and you guys are going to see and hear exactly what I'm talking about. And so you break the biscuits up, your biscuits, and you put it in a little cup, you put milk or whatever, you break it to pieces in order to satisfy yourself, right? Because this is what we're going to do with the PR stunts by Irfaan and his gang, so to speak, the PR stunts. Do not be fooled by the PR stunts at all. Don't be fooled. Please don't. And do not be afraid, because, we're hearing things that the FBI got down into Guyana, not a courtesy call, but a scheduled visit to meet and sit down with Anil Nandalal to talk about serious issues, to talk about those who ought to be extradited and those who will be extradited, and to talk about the criminal network and the underworld and the drug lords and so forth, right? To talk about those things. In the midst of all of that, Anil, out of midfield, surprised the FBI agents, and now I'm assuming that they were surprised because they're there to talk about serious business. They're not there to monitor who talk what about the PPP on social media. There's no racial unrest in Guyana. There's no unrest. There's no racial animosity that is being preached and peddled on social media by none of the people, I am certain, that Anil spoke about. And the FBI is not going to sit down and say, let us hear what Ben Sharp is saying. Is Ben Sharp against the PPP, or is Tom, or is Jones, or are some other folks against the PPP? Where we live, that is our democratic rights. It's our constitutional rights. And Anil cannot sit in a faraway country where democracy hardly exists and then say to another country that they should monitor and peep and spy on its citizen. It is a crime, Anil. Somebody tell Anil Nandalal. Call him right now. Where are our regular folks? Where are they? Call Anil right now and tell him it is illegal. It is against the law to spy on citizens. Nobody is committing a crime. People are talking their minds, right? And if the PPP is messing up, and in a lot of cases they are messing up, they're discriminating against people, all manner of things, bad policy. And Anil, is that what Anil is saying to the FBI agents, that people like us should be monitored, should be arrested for talking the truth? Anil certainly doesn't know how the FBI operates, certainly doesn't know how law enforcement agencies operate. He doesn't get it. And if in fact he told those FBI agents to do those sort of things or to help out in those areas, he is committing a crime and he can be charged. So eventually, the people that Anil Nandalal wants the FBI to go after, it could turn around that the FBI may go after Anil if he continues with this crap. It is not the first time that he has done that. He has met with U.S. Marshals. He talked to them about Facebook people who are causing problems in Guyana. The Marshals, what is it that the Marshal is going to do? Now he's talking to the FBI. The FBI wants to hear about Anil, friends of the PPP Anil, who are drug lords, who are money launderers, and so forth and so on. That's what the FBI are interested in. Hey, good evening to all of you. Welcome. It's so good to be back. Share the link, please, because something is happening on Facebook where people are not allowed to share this show. I don't know if it happens with the other shows, but this show. But share the link. Let's get straight to our guest, who is no stranger, absolutely no stranger to you guys, Tom Anderson. Before we get straight down into business, Tom, good evening. How are you?
Great. Good night, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Oftentimes, I'm sure those folks are really, really great, and they're always happy to have you on board with us. A lot of times when we speak, you talk as though you got the map of Guyana in your mind. But what is so fascinating is when you pronounce the area Berbice and Quarantine. Let's hear you. Berbice
Yeah, Berbice,
and Quarantine.
quarantine.
Ah, you got it, man. You got it.
Yeah,
Tom,
man. Yeah, man.
always a
Well,
pleasure to have you on, my friend. Let's begin with uh, touch on what I just spoke about. Anil Nandalal, who sits there as the Attorney General, is complaining about individuals on social media who are living, residing in the United States of America, practicing what is their God given constitutional rights, their freedom of expression, their First Amendment rights, and so forth. But yet, Anil Nandalal sits in another country and wants to infringe on those rights. And not only that, Tom, he is encouraging law enforcement agents, mainly the FBI, to go after those individuals. What is your take about that specifically, Tom?
well, I saw that the other day, right? And I laughed a little bit inside because I don't know if Mister Anil, if he knows that like people in the United States, we're allowed to send in something called a FOIA. It's called a Freedom of Information Act request, and we can ask the FBI for the list he gave them. So he thinks he handed over a secret list of names. No, we're going to find out who's on his list. And what's going to be interesting about that is when we find out who's on the list, I promise you, you're not going to see any human smugglers on the list. You're not going to see any drug lords on the list. You're not going to see any money launderers. You're not going to see any rapists. You're not going to see any of that on the list. You're going to see probably innocent people. And so that alone is evidence right there that when we get the list and we see that there aren't true criminals on the list, that will be evidence of what the government of Guyana is really all about, right? Because if that's what they're trying to do to American citizens, go after innocent people who haven't committed a crime, and on top of that, never mention anyone who's committing crimes right now, like Guyana needs a lot of help with drug lords running through the jungles. They need a lot of help. And for this man to never ask for any help from our FBI for that, but to ask for innocent Americans to be spied on and to be cracked down upon, well, we're going to get the list. And when we get it, we're going to expose it. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. So he should know going forward, before he communicates with our government, he should know that we're allowed to get our documents from our government, unlike his government, where we can verify here. This can cause a lot of problems for a lot of people, and I intend to cause a lot of problems for him because of this list. Yes, Mark, I do.
Yep, thank you so much, Tom. But also, you're an expert in that area and getting the information. But I'm pretty sure that those FBI agents knew at that point in time that what Anil was suggesting was bordering illegality.
Oh, they laughed inside probably, right? Because they know the number one law they have to follow above all else is the First Amendment. They know this. They've been trained thoroughly on this. It's something that these folks running the government of Guyana, they have no familiarity with. They don't understand what the First Amendment is. Our FBI does. And so coming to them with something like that, a request like that, it was laughable. He looked like a clown. He will never be taken serious again by our officials here in the United States. He should know how clownish that was. It's beyond clownish. It shows that he is a very uneducated man. He doesn't know much about anything, actually.
And I'm sure that those FBI agents were very uncomfortable. Also, we have lots of other things that we want to dwell on, but this is important. Why is it important? Because you have a guy sitting in that office there, as Anil Nandalal is, as the Attorney General, seem to have what is an addiction for when law enforcement agency pays his office a visit, an official visit, not a courtesy call. He did the same to the marshals. He said to the marshals the very same. He expects that the marshals going to come after people on social media in the United States who are exercising their constitutional rights. You just mentioned the First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of every single thing, something a lot of folks are lacking in Guyana. Does it seem now like an obsession for Anil to always whenever he's talking to U.S. law enforcement agencies, he shy away from the main issues to talk to them about the drug lords, to talk to them about money launderers, but he comes back with this thing here, thinking that he's going to make those of whom he's complaining about tremble. Oh my gosh, Anil just spoke to the FBI about us. Oh, we're supposed to be afraid. Do you sense that there's an obsession with Anil and this U.S. law enforcement talking to them about
Well,
people on social media?
well, actually, it's a little worrisome because it tells me that this is how he does his job in Guyana. That he's running around Guyana looking for innocent people who just say the wrong thing. I mean, that's not your job, Anil. I'm sorry. Like, your job is to go after people who are killing people in your country, period. Not people who are saying the wrong thing. And so here we are again dealing with the leadership in Guyana who don't even understand basic human rights. This is proof of it. They think they can run around the globe and have other governments, the American government, crack down on American citizens for their First Amendment. He believes this, okay? Clearly, he's doing it in Guyana. And here's the problem: that going forward, everyone wants to celebrate Dr. Ali. Oh, he has such a great vision, but his vision never entails dealing with people like Mr. Anil Nandlal, with people who are clearly, this man is reckless. Clearly, this man is not doing his job properly. He's not taking it seriously. He's not going after the real criminals. And so what kind of vision is there to be had when your own attorney general is wasting time, dilly-dallying, trying to get the American government to crack down on innocent people for what they say? This is trash. I mean, this isn't what a vision of Guyana should be. This isn't what a vision of a future where Guyana leads the Caribbean or that this region of the world. How can you, when you're telling other countries to go after innocent citizens for what they say? I mean, this is ridiculous. It's beyond the pale. He should apologize, and he should release the list himself before I get my hands on it. How about that?
While we understand some of the names on the list, I could call 5 of them right now or 4 of them right now. We know who the main suspects are. And, I'll say this, Tom. We are not intimidated by Anil talking to the FBI. We are not committing any crimes on social media or otherwise. We are not. We are exercising our constitutional rights to talk about happenings in Guyana. We are doing so without any fear. We are doing so because we are given that right within the Constitution of the United States of America. And not even the FBI can snatch that away from us. Again, without being repetitive, Anil Nandalal, being the lawyer that he is, should know that, and should know that if he continues like this, then the FBI may very well go after Anil instead of going after the people that Anil wants the FBI to go after. But I'm glad that you mentioned the list. I'm glad that you mentioned that in the United States of America, it's different. Unlike in Guyana, where they have a commissioner of information who has been there for over 5 years. But when somebody writes to him to submit information about government officials, he's reluctant. There's no information. There's nothing. But he sits there and gets, what is it? $1.5 million per month, I think, somewhere thereabouts. He gets security. He gets office rent paid for, other bills paid for. But you can't get any information from him. But you know what, Tom? I'm glad very soon you'll be able to get that list that he spoke to the FBI about. You will be able to get that list.
That's
now,
right.
Sorry, go ahead. Anything else you want to add?
He should learn going forward as they partner with the American government that we'll be able to get many, many, many documents he doesn't want anyone to see. So they can try to play the game all they want in Guyana. They can try to hide things from the world. They can try to play these games of secrecy. But as long as you partner with the United States of America, there will be a paper trail. And people like me will access the paper trail. Nothing will be hidden. I'm sorry, guys. That's the price you pay when you partner with the United States, is things start to become open. People start to see what you're doing. You can't stay and hide in the shadows any longer. This is just the beginning. I'll get this list and I will get many, many other things.
All right. Can't hide behind a shadow. The United States is not like in Guyana, where they hide every single thing, where they walk around with millions of dollars, or they have immediate access for millions of dollars to hand out as cash grants. It's a form of corruption, mind you, because there's no paper trail with cash. Once cash is handed out, that's it. It's a recipe, and a major recipe for corruption. It's happening in Guyana. For example, there was some so-called destruction of people's stalls at a market in Guyana in an area called Monrepo. Immediately, Irfaan Ali rushed down there with millions of dollars, gave away hundreds of thousands of dollars for one particular lady who sells Polari, right? Polari, they barely make about 800 Guyana dollars per night, 1,000, maybe 2,000. But that person, according to the information, was able to get thousands, hundreds of thousands of taxpayers' money for Polari. The point is not just the hundreds of thousands for Polari, but having easy access to millions of taxpayers' monies in cash where they cannot account for. That is a recipe for corruption. Putting the recipe for corruption aside, putting the racial and discrimination happening in Guyana under the PPP regime. They are out of the country right now with the PR stunt. And, Tom, I know sometimes we agree on a lot of issues, but in terms of the approach and so forth, sometimes we go different ways, but we still respect each other. We still know that this is to agree, to disagree. Sometimes we do. But I am saying this to you. The PPP has no good intention for Guyana. They went to Washington and they lied to the people and they committed what is called PR stunts. That is what it's about. They met with a couple members of the Black Congressional Caucus, a couple of members, including your good friend, Gregory Meeks, and also Congresswoman from Texas, Sheila Jackson. I have said enough. Your take, sir.
It's okay. Look, this is where we disagree, Mark, because I have a much better appreciation for, how things work on this end, where everyone looks at, even a lot of Americans view the American government as the executive branch and the legislative and judicial branch, our three branches of government, right? Well, the reality is it's much more complicated than that. You've got our corporations, you have our small business class of people, you've got special interest groups, there's all types of stuff going on over here. And so what happens when we start partnering with our country is you start partnering with our leaders of our corporations, with the leaders of our small business world. You start partnering with leaders in the nonprofit sector, in charities. You start partnering with people within government, bureaucrats, legislative level. All these interactions leave a paper trail. All these interactions open the door for the house of cards that the PPP has constructed to fall apart, right? And so that's why I say be very patient, because what's going to be happening here is going to see very fast some huge development happening in Guyana, and the PPP, they're in charge right now as those developments are occurring. They don't have enough of wherewithal to ensure that all of Guyana is taken care of. I'm just telling you, this is how fast it's going to happen. And so they're either going to fall apart or they're going to have to reach out and find a way to stop being idiots and start being true leaders and start to have a vision that's bigger than just the pettiness that's been going on for decades in Guyana, because that's really what's happening with these guys. Is they're very, very petty. They're very small-minded. And I know when they're meeting with these handful of Black Caucus congressional members in our country, what these guys are trying to do, I can't say Gregory Meeks, but I can say others, they're trying to encourage them to be more high-minded, to be less petty. But that's something that we're going to have to see if they can do it. Now, I will say this, they're either going to have to grow and be less petty, or they're going to just wash away. Because look, man, there's no time to waste. There's a lot at stake. There's a lot of money here, a lot of economic activity going on. There's a war going on in the world. Some heavyweight stuff is happening. So they have to either get really serious and open up their eyes and stop being so petty, or they're going to be washed away. And that's just the reality, Mark. That's just the reality, in my opinion.
They're going to be washed away indeed. But we both weren't surprised, and I'm sure some of our listeners weren't surprised to see Gregory Meeks, a guy you have been after for so many years. He seems to be slipping out of your hands almost ever so often. But you're not surprised that he was sitting there beating the PPP drums, right? We know his relationship with the PPP, so obviously it wasn't a surprise, huh?
Yeah, well, he has a monetary relationship with the PPP. Okay, plain and simple. He has received money. He received money from a representative of the PPP years ago, $50,000. Yes, he did. He did not. He claims it was a loan, but it was a loan that never had any paperwork with it. He had never paid a single payment on it. He only admitted that that he had gotten the money after the FBI came asking questions. And so he has received money from basically in the past through a PPP representative who his name was Ed Ahmad, who was found guilty of crimes that he committed. And so this is where we are, right? Member of Congress, chairman of the House Foreign Relations Committee, having taken $50,000 from a representative of the PPP at the time, who subsequently went to jail for financial crimes. This is where we are. So yes, he's very happy to see the PPP doing well, I am sure. I don't know what his financial relationship is with them now. I don't know if he has one or not. Who knows? But at the end of the day, it's very hard for me or anyone who knows what's going on to trust Congressman Meeks when it comes to Guyana.
Very difficult to trust him, especially when it comes to Guyana, knowing exactly his relationship with Ed Ahmad. You have said it correctly because court documents, and he himself admitted that he took that money. What was it, 50,000 US dollars?
Yes.
And he said that, yes, he took the money after he got caught, mind you. After he got caught, he never declared it or anything, but you did all of that investigations. He never declared it, but when he got caught, he said it was a loan.
Yep. Yeah. It's like, come on. But didn't have any documents to prove it was a loan. Never made a payment. It was years that he had the loan. Never made a payment on it. I mean, but that's how it goes sometimes. With that said, there is a microscope on Gregory Meeks because of this, Congressman Meeks. People are looking. He probably, and this is the problem with corruption, right? Most corrupt government officials, when they get away with something, it only emboldens them to become more corrupt. So here's the good thing. There are many, many people that are opposed to Congressman Meeks and who are looking at what he's doing and who are doing the hard work of being vigilant and making sure that our government isn't doing something corrupt in a country like Guyana. So that's the good thing, Mark. And if Congressman Meeks tries to do something funny, we're going to be the first ones there to point it out and to stop him in his tracks. And that's just the reality. So that's the good part.
All right, that's a good part. He will be stopped in his tracks. He seems to be a slippery eel, as we say, will slip out of your hands, in and out of your hands. I know you have been tracking him for years now, and he knows that you have been tracking him. Outside of that, though, it's the same Ed Ahmad. We should just, for the purpose of information's sake, let our listeners know of this relationship that Ed Ahmad had, then probably still do. He still has that relationship with Jack Dale, where lots of materials, supposedly for Jack Deere's property when he was building it at Pradoville 2, were actually sent from China. And Ed Ahmad was the guy who did all of the shipment based on based on documents seen, right?
Yep, that's right. So yeah, I unearthed a bunch of import-export documents. That's the other thing, right? So in Guyana, people can import and export, and good luck figuring out what's coming in and out of the ports of Guyana, right? It's not.
For some reason, Tom, we're breaking up. We're not hearing you clearly. All right, sorry, we just removed Tom there for a quick minute. I don't know what's happening. But we got to get to this discussion. We want you guys to hear and to understand what is happening, because we speak the truth here, and we know the FBI understands, and they are on the side of the truth. Forget about Anil. So let me say good evening to the FBI agents who might be. One second, Tom. We were having some problems.
Track every.
Yep, Tom is still speaking. Sorry about that. We are having some serious internet issues over at Tom's end. Wherever Tom is, we're having some internet issues, so we're trying to correct that. Hopefully, our friends, FBI friends, can help us correct it as well, right? Because they're not going to be indulging in anything illegal, especially what Anil wants them to do, spy on programs such as this, and thinking that we are calling and we are creating racial animosity and all manner of things in Guyana. We all know the truth. Let's get back to Tom. So, yeah, Tom is still going. Tom is still going. Yeah. Yep. Sorry, we have to remove Tom from the studio. We just did that. Hopefully, he will get to understand that he has been talking, he has been breaking up, and I want him to continue because he is talking a lot of things, lots of information to you guys to understand where this corruption is and the sort of policies that these guys are talking about. And especially when they go to Washington, D.C. and other places and they knock glasses with these people and pretend as though there is some sort of democracy and transparency and all manner of things in Guyana. It is furthest from the truth. Folks like Congresswoman Jackson, Sheila Jackson, she doesn't understand that at all, what's happening in Guyana. Senator Cory Booker, a lot of us love Cory Booker, right? Don't we love Cory? But at the end of the day, Cory Booker has not been paying much attention to Guyana. And I fault this also, especially on the part of the opposition. The opposition needs to be robust. They got to be out there. And I'm not talking about just writing a letter to some agency or say a right letter and nothing is being done, right? We hear about this, say you write a letter to this. People don't have time. People can send a letter to the White House. There are hundreds of thousands of letters every day. And those letters are not open. They're just not open. So the opposition, the legitimate opposition in Guyana got to be robust. Their organizations and so forth, whether in New York or wherever they are, they got to start being proactive. Tom, sorry about that. We missed almost a heck of a lot that you were saying concerning the shipment and the bill of lading and so forth from Ed Ahmad with shipment of supposedly property, materials for Jack Dale's house. Sorry, we missed out a heck of a lot of what you said.
I was able to track all the materials from China to the Dominican Republic down to the president's house in Guyana to Jack Dale. And it was all building supplies. It was like toilets, roof shingles, everything to build a house. And then soon after that, you see this huge mansion there, right? And in which he was actually able to house Mr. Sue in it, right, as a tenant. And who knows how much rent was being paid. His tenant that he is now suing for defamation. So I was able to track that. And that's the thing that these guys should understand going forward. There's a paper trail, and there will continue to be a paper trail as long as they're doing business with the United States of America, which is happening and is going to happen. And so the good thing for the people of Guyana and the people of the Caribbean, people of the region, is that there will be a level of transparency coming very shortly, and it should clean up a lot of what's going on. It's not going to make it perfect, but it will open the door for people on the ground in Guyana to win some elections, to make a difference in their communities, to change the direction of the country from one where there's secrets and lies and drug lords getting rich to a place where people can be educated, where there is freedom, where there's transparency, where Guyana can actually be a symbol for freedom for the region, for the Caribbean, and for the world. It's possible for it to happen. It's easy to be done, but it's going to take transparency. It's going to take these guys getting serious. Maybe they can't do it, but I do believe involvement with us is going to open the door to make it happen. If not with them, then with the coalition government.
These people do not understand democracy. Tom, as I want to ask you the next question concerning Congresswoman Sheila Jackson out there in Texas, who recently met with just a couple others, including Meek also met with Irfaan Ali and the gang And then they created this perception that, look, congressional members, as though the majority of congressional members embraced and they met Irfan Ali and they loved what he's doing. But no, it's just a handful. And most of those people, they were just, their facial expression didn't tell the right story. But here is a regime, installed as they are, in Washington D.C., talking about democracy, but yet, when they were in office for 20 something years, they refused to hold local government elections. I think local government elections were held once under the PPP. They refused to have local government elections held. They refused to respect the rights of people. And then, when one ambassador, Mr. Brent Hart, he confronted that, he was brave enough to speak out against the lack of local government democracy in Guyana. He was cursed out, he was abused out by one named Priya Manikchan, who went into the US ambassador's residence and cursed him out, basically told him that he has no right to talk about democracy and tell the people of Guyana or the government of Guyana what to do. But to this day, Priya Manikchan cannot return to the ambassador's residence. In fact, she is banned from going there, just like they banned Barajagdia, banned a journalist named Gordon Mosley from entering State House or wherever. Well, Priya Manikchan cannot enter the U.S. ambassador's residence in Guyana. Just thought I'd give them that bit of information. But with all that is happening, even now, Mr. Anderson, that they have promised to hold local government elections. Again, they do not want local government elections to be held. They're complaining about GCOM. That's another showcase, right? We can touch about that. But how do you feel when you see and hear a respectable man, in my opinion, Senator Cory Booker, is basically embracing Irfaan Ali and say things are all hunky-dory in Guyana? And what about Sheila Jackson, the congresswoman, who's echoing the same sentiments? I know, and I ask this question because majority of Guyanese are upset, they're annoyed that these people, with all due respect, especially to Senator Booker, do not know what's happening in Guyana, but yet they're hugging up and kissing up with these individuals who are mini dictators back home. I have said enough. Over to you, Tom.
So you have to understand, right? And I'm not taking the side of Senator Booker or Sheila Jackson. I'm not taking the side of these politicians. I have a long history of opposing them, so I'm not taking their side when I say this. But I'm going to say that they're playing a role. They're like actors in a play. And the role that they have to play is one where they have to try their best to encourage Dr. Ali to do the right thing. And the best way they think to encourage that is to say good things to him and nice things to him, and to say, we're here to partner with you. And they're hoping being nice is the ticket to get Dr. Ali to partner with us, permanently, long term, and to come to us when he needs assistance in running Guyana. That's the role they're playing. And so you have to understand that it's not just, Cory Booker being ignorant here or being played. He's trying to play Dr. Ali, believe it or not. Like this is like, when you have politicians like this, because Dr. Ali is a politician, right? So when you have politicians slapping each other on the back, just imagine it's two snakes slapping each other on the back. I mean, it's these aren't nice people, okay? I hate to say it, but they have to play their role. And the role that they have to play is one that they're playing now. Now, when it comes to Sheila Jackson Lee, the only thing, for all of your listeners, you have to understand something. She only cares about oil. That's it. Okay? That's it. She only cares about oil. That's her constituency. Is all they care about is oil. That's what she's all about. So yes, she is going to cheer on anyone who is running Guyana. I don't care who they are, because there's a lot of oil here now, and she's going to be there smiling and grinning and doing all that stuff. So they're not being tricked. If anything, they're just as cold-blooded reptilian as Dr. Ali is, and they're all positioning to try to get over on the other one, and they're doing it with smiles. So please don't take it like they're being fooled. This is a game of snakes. None of them can be trusted here, okay? Even though they're smiling and pretending like they don't know any better, no, they know better. Don't trust Cory Booker. Don't trust them, okay? Trust me when I tell you, he has his constituents in mind when he's saying what he's saying to Dr. Ali, and that's it. Okay, and that's who he cares about above anything else, above even the people of Guyana. He cares about his constituents, and that's why he's playing the role he's playing, because he has to, because there's something that he needs to get out of Dr. Ali and the people of Guyana. Plain and simple.
All right. Well said there. I noticed some comments that we should check and hear what the congressional side. Look, we offer opinions here, and I don't oftentimes come and grab and brag. Oh, I spoke with this, but I did get in touch with some Congress elected officials and so forth. But I rather not share that opinion, and those opinions do not coincide with what Cory Booker has said publicly and what Sheila Jackson and even Congressman Gregory Meeks said. So we are basically here to offer opinions, right? We're not here to speak on behalf of what a congresswoman or a congressman has said. We're not here to go into the minds of the Congress representatives. We're just offering our opinions, mind you. And who's better to do that than Tom Anderson, a man who has been there in Washington, who has been investigating government agencies throughout the United States government. He knows it inside out. So he's here giving you the kind of explanation that you need. What else do you guys need? Sheila Jackson, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson, is all about the oil. She's in Texas. I don't know how that adds up. But a little bit more of information. Merchant Bank, I don't know if you saw that news, as they're not investing. It's a promissory note of some sort of loan, mind you, loan to the PPP of billions of dollars. And now it's a loan. They want something back from that. Tom, I don't know if you saw that Merchant Bank statement on the billions of dollars. Take a shot at it, please, sir.
So here's where, this is where Venezuela went kind of sideways, right? These big checks start coming in, but with big checks also come big expenses, okay? So I don't know what the deal is with the oil operation, but I know Venezuela ran into problems when a lot of money needed to be spent on upgrading the platforms and the machinery going after the oil, right? They were left responsible to have to pay for that. I'm sure Guyana is probably in the same position where they're going to be responsible for a large amount of the upkeep of the equipment and stuff like that. There are all other types of costs that start coming in. So you see these big checks coming in of loans, but it's coming in because there are big operational costs at hand. And so when you have Dr. Ali saying that Guyana is going to take a leadership role in the region, he's talking about money. He's going to provide money in the region on behalf of the people of Guyana to keep other countries well fed. That's what he was talking about the other day with food security, right? And so these are big bills that he's putting on the backs of the people of Guyana. And these loans are supposed to be taking care of those bills, right? But these loans come with interest, and the interest starts piling up, and the bills start piling up. And this is where things start to unwind. Okay, so I truly believe it's to the benefit of the people of Guyana to be very frugal and to encourage your government to be frugal with the money and not to be running around here saying that you're going to be the leaders of food security in the region, because it's a guarantee to suck away all of the revenue you're getting from the oil happening right now, right? So that's how I see that. I see those big loans as a big problem because they're coming because there are big costs. There are big bills that need to be paid. And I don't know if the PPP have the wherewithal to look forward and out 20, 30 years and to make sure that the money's going to the right places for the right infrastructure, for the right projects, so that the country can continue to be prosperous and not living in a constant, situation of basically paycheck to paycheck from loan to loan, right? I don't know if they have the wherewithal for that. It doesn't seem like they do right now, but maybe they do. I don't know.
Certainly they do not from this standpoint. Look, Tom, I don't usually say anything to my guests when they come and they address anyone. They have a right to address anyone how they wish. But one thing I've been seeing in the comment section, And you know, we live in a democracy, a real democracy to some extent in the United States of America, constitutional rights and so forth, freedom of expression. It's okay for you to address people how you want to address them. But a majority of our listeners are now saying, Tom, Muhammad, Irfan Ali is not a doctor. And apparently you're irritating a lot of our listeners by
I'm doing it
saying
on purpose. I'm doing it on purpose.
doctor. They don't
Yes.
see the sarcasm, doctor.
That's I'm being sarcastic, everyone. I'm doing
Muhammad.
it on purpose. I'm sorry.
Muhammad. Now look, Mr. Anderson, and one day I'll feel comfortable addressing you as Dr. Anderson, because when you get your PhD, I'm sure you'll get it from a legitimate source and through legitimate processes, right?
Mhm.
Unlike this guy, doctor, right? How does it make you feel, Mr. Anderson, when you see, because in the US it's not like that, in real democracy it's not like that, that you have governments or so-called presidents walking around and handing out cash, millions upon millions of dollars in cash. Your take on that, please, sir.
Okay, so explain that to me. Who's walking around handing out cash? Well,
But
how's that working?
basically,
Explain that
every
to me.
single thing in Guyana for Irfan Ali, maybe he should tell Senator Cory Booker and Congresswoman Sheila Jackson and others that what they do, they walk around with hundreds of millions of dollars. And as soon as there's a problem, they try to fix it, but they fix it with, in my opinion, an illegality, which is dole out millions of dollars of cash. So, for example, on the east coast of Demerara, there's a village called Monrepo, where people claim that their stalls were broken down. They claim that their stalls were broken down at a market and that it was the opposition guys who were rowdy. They broke up our tents, or they broke up our stalls. Oh, we can't do business now. And so what Irfan Ali did, went into that area because the majority of the people are known to be supporters of the PPP. And so what he did, Irfan Ali, he started to dish out cash. 100,000, 400,000 Guyana dollars, 3 million Guyana dollars, just cash. He does that every single time. It's called now in Guyana cash grant. He should be called Dr. Cash Grant. Your take on a government just giving out hundreds of millions of dollars in cash,
Well,
taxpayers' money.
that's similar to what Hugo Chavez would do next door in Venezuela, right? Anytime there were problems, he would run down to the Coca-Cola distributor there in Caracas, and he would have the army strip out all the coke and go down to the neighborhoods that were supportive of his regime and give it all for free, give it all away, like that. This is what he was doing. And so yeah, when you're I guess Dr. Ali has looked at the neighbor next door and decided, for the people of Guyana and the people in that region, that sort of thing kind of works. Now, this is what I was saying to you earlier, that they have to get out of the small mindedness, right? And they have to start thinking more big picture, and you have to start realizing that even if over the last 20 or 30 years, they have looked at their own people as less than deserving, it's not the reality. That the people of Guyana are just as deserving as anyone else on this planet of having a good government, of having a government of transparency and a government that responds to what they need. I'm sure he's not used to viewing the people of Guyana in that way, but that's the case. All of them, even the ones who disagree with him. And the day he realizes that, and the day he starts to govern from that perspective, is the day that Guyana will have a good leader. Now, I don't think he can do that. I've seen enough from him now to know that he's a very small-minded man, in my opinion. And he can't rise above his circumstances. He is who he is, and that's just it, man. And he's good with being a watered down version of Hugo Chavez, maybe, right? I think he might think that might be something that would be laudable. But here's the thing about Guyana. Guyana has an opportunity to be a true beacon of light for that entire region and for the Caribbean. The people of the Caribbean deserve strong leadership coming from a country like Guyana. They deserve it. It should happen. But it's going to take leadership who views the people of Guyana as deserving of the utmost respect. They deserve good government. and they deserve transparency. These people deserve this. The leadership has to recognize this and apply it. When that happens, the entire region will be a better place, in my opinion.
All right, a better place, and a lot of the PPP, usually we call them trench croppers. They're in hiding now because at the end of the day, they just can't accept the truth for whatever reason. We have seen that already. But Tom, you know what bothers me, man, and I'll be honest with you, is when and I do intend to possibly get in touch with some more of these individuals quietly and say to them, how can you sit there and embrace a man who doesn't believe in democracy? How can you sit there and embrace a man and talk favorable things of a man when in fact what he does in the country is totally different from what he sits in Washington to say to you guys? We don't have local government elections in Guyana. And of course, they would want to blame it on GCOM. Well, you know, that's what they've been doing. They do not want the changes at GCOM. That is because they want to prolong this whole thing about not having local government elections. And now when you don't have local government elections and you don't fix whatever problems they have at GCOM, then closer down to elections, you're basically going to be buying time. They're basically going to want another 2 or 3 years extra. During the elections period, they're going to say, look, we cannot have elections now. We want to fix what is happening at GCOM first so everybody can be comfortable. Look out for that fraud. Look out for that sort of propaganda they're going to be spreading. But my point is, Cory Booker, Senator Cory Booker, and all these other individuals should understand the nature of democracy and what comes first. And to see them sitting there and buying to some extent the propaganda coming out of Irfaan Ali, who cannot govern his own country properly, but yet he wants to talk about food security in the region. And there's serious food crisis in Guyana. There's serious leadership crisis in Guyana that he, Irfaan Ali, cannot fix. And now before you respond, you did say that Irfaan Ali appears to be small-minded. In the eyes of most Guyanese, he is small-minded. I'll give you an example, and our listeners. He went not so long ago in a village called Buxton. You should know that village, Buxton. And this is how he was basically having a conversation with the people in Buxton, where there is a guy, Dr. David Hines, who is from Buxton. He lived in Buxton for decades, but yet Irfaan Ali goes in there and insulted doctor, a real doctor, a man who has a real PhD, who teaches at a university. Listen, if you can understand Irfaan Ali. If you need for me to translate it, I'll translate it for you.
Mr. Watts, he is armed himself shots. Shots, watch it, tear gas. Light rounds, also I can see that.
But since Mike wasn't there, no, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me.
Right? No, you come on the East Coast.
You listen to me.
You gotta listen to me too, man.
I am listening to
you. Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day, that's when you see one bigger heads come up to talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If you didn't do a protest, you want to see nobody for justice. You see? I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing. I just need justice for my family.
I get visitors all of a sudden. All of a sudden, you all have visitors. This is Joker. Who is that Joker? That piece of plum. They know who to deliver to.
Tom, in that video, Dr. David Hines, a real doctor, a man who earned his PhD and deserves to be called Dr. David Hines, was there in the village when Irfaan Ali turned and said, "Who's that joker?" And then said to another young person there, He don't know who I am, you know. In other words, he's a bad man. He don't know who I am, you know. Maybe the FBI, this is what Anil should tell the FBI to watch, how the quote unquote, well, they say president, but how he behaves, Irfaan Ali behaves in Guyana. Before I allow you to comment, you heard that. And this is why it's puzzling to me. Because when he goes in Washington and other places and sits with those guys, there's a different Irfaan Ali in Guyana. I've just shown you. I showed you the evidence, Tom. Here is another version of Irfaan Ali in Guyana. Okay, that's Irfaan Ali again. Lots of other stuff. How he behaves in Guyana like a big tug, a bully. That is how he behaves. But he goes to Washington and he sits down like a little pussycat, pretending as though he believes in democracy and he wants the best for his country. But this is a guy who knocked off, as we say, fired over 3,000 public servants, mainly because of their political affiliation, mainly because of their ethnic persuasion, and so forth and so on. This is a guy who is in the US right now, pretending as though he is a leader for all of the people. That is why I get so worked up, Mr. Anderson. That is exactly why I get worked up. And I have no confidence that Irfaan Ali will do anything different when he goes back to Guyana. Your take, sir.
Well, I'll say this. Guyana, the world right now is in transition. So I think we have to remember that you have to sort of keep the door open for people to be able to transition into their proper roles. What's happening now is Guyana is in transition in the region, in the world, and the leadership is transitioning with the country. And Dr. Ali is in a position, Irfaan Ali is in a position where he can either rise to the occasion or he can be washed away. Now, I like to leave the door open for him to be able to rise to the occasion. I say that because I look at Guyana and it's not just Irfaan Ali that has to rise to the occasion. There are many, many people within the country who have to rise to the occasion. A lot of the petty domestic back and forth needs to be set aside. I don't know if it's possible for it to be set aside because it seems like this is just a cycle that just keeps going on and on and on. But I will say this. The one thing that can break the dysfunctional cycle between what's happening in Guyana that I've seen, and I keep harping on this, is transparency. And I say this because there's an old saying. Ronald Reagan said it during the Cold War with the Soviet Union. He said, "Trust but verify." Trust but verify is actually a Russian proverb. Okay, comes from Lenin used it, and I'll give you an example. Lenin said, "Put no faith in words. Subject everything to the closest scrutiny, such is the motto of the Marxist workers. To test men and verify what has actually been done. This alone is now the main feature of all of our activities, of our whole policy." Okay, so even the old communists, Lenin, even they knew, right, that you had to trust but verify. You had to verify everything. What's happening in Guyana, and there is no verification. And the reason why there's no verification is because there's no transparency. I implore Irfaan Ali, I implore the PPP, I implore all, even the opposition, even the coalition opposition, the AFC, the PNC, I implore everyone to focus in on transparency, on opening up the books, on being in a position where the people of Guyana, where everyone around the world can actually verify that what's being said with the mouths of Irfaan Ali is actually being done. And if it's not being done, people can see where it's failing and improvements can be made. Right now, it's like the ship is being steered in the dark by the blind. It's the blind leading the blind, basically, is what I see right now. And so can Irfaan Ali step up to the plate and open his eyes and put aside the petty squabbles of the domestic politics? Can he break away from the clutches of people like Jagdeo and Mr. Su and the Chinese businessmen who are running around the jungle and buying up the entire forest? Can he get out of their hands? Can he also navigate the treacherous waters of the United States government? I mean, it's not easy dealing with us. We come in heavy. You have to pay a heavy price if you don't play by the rules with us. Can he navigate those waters? I mean, there's a lot going on here, right? And so this man has a huge job on his shoulders. I do not envy his position. I hope that he can rise to the occasion, and I hope that he can find in himself a way to find some respect for the people of Guyana, enough respect for the people that he is leader of, to give them the ability to know and verify that what he promises is actually true. Can he do that? Can he find it in himself to provide that? I don't know, but that's what has to happen if this cycle of dysfunction is to break, in my opinion.
All right, Lenin and those guys seem to have taken some sort of quote and they mix everything up, because that particular quote that you mentioned earlier, what came to mind is that some scriptures in the Bible: lean not on thine own understanding and have faith, trust no heart. The heart is so, what is it, deceitful, who can know it? When you put all of those things together, and Lenin was a bright guy, even though as a communist he didn't believe in God, he seems to be mixing, currying up, so to speak, scriptures from the Bible and presenting it as his own quote. That's what came to mind. Now, Lenin might have just done that on his own, but it's a coincidence that some of those things mirrors what's in the Bible. Tom, I see here, and I hope others can follow what Andrew Van Veen is saying here. He said he just said his piece on Cory Booker's Senate website. If you want to reach out to these senators and these congressmen and these congresswomen to give them the truth as to what is really happening in Guyana, do like what Andrew Van Veen is doing. Call up your senators, email them, go on their website, bombard them with the truth. Don't be afraid of the truth. Telling them what's happening in Guyana will give them a different perception as to what's really happening. So let's say, for example, if by tomorrow, thousands of you are watching this show. Even if 500 of you email Senator Cory Booker's office right now and say, look, man, you've got this wrong. You're supporting a mini dictator in Guyana. Do that to Sheila Jackson. I don't know. Whatever you said to her might be throwing water and ducks back. The same with Mix. I don't know about that, but Tom is smiling. Tom, we're looking at the time. We are looking at the time. The fact that this guy, Irfaan Ali, cannot be his own man. He's a puppet, and that's the perception of people on the streets. But when you look at the amount of things happening in Guyana, this man doesn't want to change Guyana for the better. He doesn't. And therefore, people are not optimistic that he can get the job done. He has made so many promises that cannot be filled, that cannot be taken care of, even going on 3 years since they've been installed. He promised the people of Guyana 50,000 jobs. There is no job. It's the highest unemployment in the history of Guyana. Ask any economist. Go out there, ask them. They will tell you, they will break things down for you, that even with the billions of dollars taxpayers are supposed to be getting from Exxon. It is not going to the people. They control the funds, the oil funds. There is no transparency. They just, every time there's a deposit in that account, they rush to that bank account and draw out. And they, as we say, they withdraw, as if it is their own. And so at the end of the day, 10 years down the line, if in fact, if these people are allowed to continue ruling, there will be no Guyana. Absolutely none. And this is my reason for saying, and joining with thousands of other people to say that Irfaan Ali is not the man to lead Guyana out of the darkness we've been seeing for almost 3 years now. Tom?
Well,
We're looking at closing time. But go
well,
ahead.
let me say, it's history. Look, Mark, you might be surprised, man. History is a weird thing. Okay, so he may not be the man today, but he could be the man tomorrow. And I say that for this reason. The people of Guyana, the people in the region have to find a way to envision a future where leadership does the right thing. The leaders of Guyana will never do the right thing if the people aren't expecting the right thing, right? And so the right thing has to be expected of Irfaan Ali, even if he may fail at bringing it to fruition. The expectation of the right thing being done has to be placed on him. The hopes of the people have to be placed on him. And as a leader, he has to be forced to be responsive to the hopes of the people. And so I hope the people of Guyana can find it in themselves to find a way to muster up enough strength inside to have hope that Irfaan Ali can change. I hope that can happen, because I believe if people can do it and give this man a chance, something can happen. I know I sound naive, but I will tell you that's how I see this, and I see it for this reason. I believe we're living in a time where many, many changes are going to happen in front of our eyes, where the world that we see today will not be the same world in the year 2030. It will not be the same. It will be radically different. So it's now that people need to have good expectations. And what I say is this: trust but verify. Put yourself in a position to verify. When it comes to reaching out to government officials here in the United States, it's a very good idea, very smart to reach out to Senator Booker. It's smart to reach out to Sheila Jackson Lee. It's smart to reach out to Gregory Meeks, because here in America, our politicians, they feel it when the people are responding. It may not be that way in Guyana, but it happens here. And so I encourage everyone to contact these elected officials and to share with them what you see and what you feel. Now, I will say this: don't, try to be measured, try to be clear. View it like this: you're not reaching out to these elected officials just one time. View it like you want to reach out to them with a rolling conversation many, many times. Well, this isn't this the first time you're going to contact them. You're going to contact them many times. And so anyone you contact many times, you should have some respect for. Don't get too angry. Don't flip out. Be respectful. Be focused with what you're saying. Be precise. Be cool-minded, cool-blooded on it. And just know that this is a long-term fight. This is something that you have to win little by little. You're not going to win it in one big shot, right? And I think if everyone does that, and everyone stays focused, and everyone gets better at following the news and holding elected officials accountable, not just here in the United States, but in Guyana, we will see gradually things change. And I know it seems like this is impossible, but this is how countries change. This is how it happens, man. It happens from the bottom up. And it starts with the people giving the leaders an opportunity, but verifying that the leaders are doing the right job. And when they're not, reaching out and voicing their displeasure.
And you're so correct, Tom. Can't disagree with you there on anything at all. The people have to hold their governments or the elected officials accountable, including those who are in the opposition. And that's what we do here on 107.1 FM. We want to hold everyone accountable. We want everyone to understand that, look, you do your job and do it fairly, do it with transparency. We will, in fact, respect you. But when we see what is happening in the country right now, I think there's hardly anyone who would want to respect most of these elected officials.
I know it's hard. It's
and it's
Mark.
sad.
It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard, but the people of Guyana have to find the strength from within to dig deep and actually try to expect a good thing, a good result. And it's hard because think about it. The people of Guyana, for anyone listening who is not in Guyana, the people of Guyana are a forgotten people, people who've been pushed to the side, people who've been abused in the darkness, where the world has not seen the abuse. And so we're dealing with a population that has seen some very dark days. And it's really hard for that population to muster up the strength to boldly envision good days ahead, especially from the people who have been persecuting them for so long. But that has to happen. The people have to find a way to, inside themselves, to see a positive future in Guyana, even with the people who have been tormenting them for so long. You have to envision them changing their ways. You have to. It's the only way they will change. And for Guyana to go forward, they have to change. Even if they're not running the country, the PPP will always be in some way, somehow involved. They have to stop being so toxic. They have to start thinking about the entire country, and they have to start paving a way for this population of people who have been forgotten for the most part to be a bright shining light for the region and for the world. This is a big change for Guyana. Think about it. People who have been forgotten, who have been in the dark, are now going to be in the light for everyone to see. That's a big change. And so when the light is shining on you, it's time now to forget what's happened in the past. I know it's been abusive. I know it's been dark. I know it's been bad, but you have to put that aside and you have to hold on to what's right. You have to have a positive viewpoint going forward, and you have to open the door and allow these leaders to possibly change. I know it's hard, but it has to be done.
That's a tough pill for us to swallow. Most of the people don't want to swallow that pill because, first of all, majority of Guyanese do not trust the PPP. They do not trust Bara Jagdeo. They do not trust Irfaan Ali. They believe that, of course, Irfaan is Bharat's puppet. For 20-something years, they haven't trusted Bara Jagdeo. The people are not going to waste their time to trust these political vagabonds, these gangsters who are in office, who basically want to control people. They want to control the police force, control the army. They're a bunch of control freaks, Tom, and nobody really trusts them. So when we speak about trust, but you verify, you trust first and verify later, I'm going to say this in Guyanese term. People don't trust these people, Tom. And can I interpret that, or do you understand me when I say?
I understand. I understand.
Don't trust these people, Tom.
I understand, Mark.
They don't trust these people, my friend. They don't trust.
I know.
Sorry. I understand what you're saying. I respect what you're saying. But Guyana is a whole different kettle of fish. You have been studying Guyana. You know Guyana. And I dare say publicly, you know who the corrupt officials are. You know who these vagabonds, whether drug lords, but you know who they are. And that is why I'm saying it's a tough pill to swallow. People don't trust these political vagabonds. They sit in Washington, D.C., and look at how they sit, pretending as though they care, pretending as though they want the best for Guyana. Talking to these people, talking to the U.S. Secretary of State. Look at the U.S. ambassador sitting there. Look at all the State Department top guns sitting there. Listening to these political vagabonds who don't really care about Guyana. We look at the evidence. Look at Sam Hines. Sam Hines squatted in a seat for 5 years that they stole from a smaller party called the Alliance for Change. He didn't win a seat. He sat there for 5+ years. Look at Bara Jagdeo and hundreds of people and the slaughtering throughout the country and allegations of rigged elections. In 2006, Sam Hines, the PPP, stole a seat from the AFC. In 2011, they were about to steal another seat. And all these manner of things. And I say to you, Tom, I didn't come here this evening to preach because I know the FBI, Anil wants them to watch. And even if they are watching, they are going to walk away from this program being converted certain now they will listen to Straight Up every single night, because here is where that we preach the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And we are so thankful to have you, a heavyweight, someone who goes after those politicians like Meeks and others and ensure that you keep them in check. Now, you started off by talking about getting that list, the list of names. Anil doesn't know that when dealing with America, agencies are required to turn things over. With that said, your closing remarks, Mr. Anderson.
Mark, and I said earlier, I know it's a hard pill to swallow, and it's one that many people in Guyana will not want to swallow. I understand that. With that said, I can't say enough that the changes coming to Guyana are going to happen fast. People's heads are going to spin. I mean, it's going to be so fast. It's going to be so huge. With that said, with the change being so fast, I just hope no one gets washed away in their anger and washed away in the past. It's time to grab on to the future. It's time for people to start having new thoughts politically in Guyana. That's going to come from leadership for sure. And I will say this, Mr. Ali and the people within the PPP who are running things now, it would behoove them to realize how much pain has been suffered underneath their rule for so long by so many people, and to acknowledge that and to come clean on that and to ask for some type of, I won't say forgiveness because some people may never forgive, but to ask for space going forward to allow them a chance to make up for what they've done in the past. If that would go a long way in making it possible for Guyana to move forward a lot quicker, right? Because the country is going to move forward regardless. Time doesn't stand still for anyone, and the future is now. So with that in mind, anyone listening, I'm not saying that these guys are good guys. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, for Guyana to have a bright future, the people of Guyana have to think in bright terms. That's the only way, right? And it's hard to do that because for so long, the people of Guyana have not been encouraged to think in that way. But I am encouraging the people of Guyana to think in bright terms, and think in positive ways, to think in constructive ways, to think in ways where Guyana, the future of Guyana, is a future that even in their wildest dreams, they could never dream of, and it can happen. That's where the people of Guyana should be. That's where your listeners should be. That's where we all should be. I think the time is right for that, for Guyana. And I hope it happens. I hope for the people of Guyana that it does happen, because the people of Guyana deserve it, in my opinion.
All right. Well said, Mr. Thomas Anderson here for you guys. It's Friday evening. Thank God it's Friday. Gosh, we got to continue to just do more than praying for Guyana. I know a lot of you just look forward for these programs because it is what we do. We tell the truth, the other side of the coin, something that the PPP can't stomach. And so they oftentimes talk about racial strife. No one benefits from being racial. At least I wouldn't benefit from being racial, being multiracial myself. Tom, I know you multiracial. A lot of our listeners are multiracial. And even if you're not multiracial, people believe in democracy. And this is what we practice right here on 107.1 FM. And again, I say this because I know our FBI agents who are watching this evening will walk away saying, this guy, Anil, is a liar. We can't trust Anil. Tom, I know you can get a lot of things. You'll get that list for us. But can you help us find Sue, please?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Where do you think this guy might be now? Because if Jagdier comes back with a bluff, he claims that he is sued for defamation of character. Defamation of character. He Sue. I don't know. What is your take on Jagdier's bluff? And where is Sue, man? Where is Sue?
You know, who knows where Mr. Sue is? And I hope for the country of Guyana that everyone gets to the bottom of what's going on there, because you're talking about a huge amount of the forest that's that could be gone. Mr. Sue can just, he owns a big portion of it. You've got the vice president of the country in a position with the Vice News report where it does not look good. I mean, yeah, this needs a resolution. I don't know about this lawsuit. I don't know how real that is, but I do know an investigation should be done. The people of Guyana deserve that. And if it's not done, I just think once again, you have this cycle of dysfunction that just continues to go on and on and on. And it's up to the leadership of Guyana to put their foot down and say, look, for the betterment of the country, if they have any respect for the people of Guyana, they have a real investigation and they allow that investigation to go to wherever it goes. And for whatever results happen or the results that happen, and the country has to deal with that going forward. But that's what a real country does. That's what a real country does. A real nation doesn't put one individual above the entire nation. I'm sorry, no matter who they are, no matter how great they are, the nation comes first, period, end of story. That's what needs to happen with Mr. Sue and with Vice President Jack Dale.
And we see that quite often in the U.S. Politicians, no matter how big they are. Back in the early days, you remember, and some of our listeners should remember, Richard Milhous Nixon, with that investigations into Watergate. Who is it? Bernstein and another another reporter, from the Washington Post were able to break that story. Not so long after, Richard Nixon, the powerful man in the world, sat there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue as the president of the United States of America because of pressure by the people, from the people, including the media. You know what? On that day, many of us remember, well, from reading and watching, Richard Milhous Nixon, the president of the United States of America, on Air Force One say, goodbye, America. That was it. He resigned. So I say this now to say, because Sue's investigation is way bigger than what we saw happen at Watergate. What really happened at Watergate is that it's not like the president instigated that, the breaking in of the headquarters of the Democratic Party, but he knew about it and did nothing. Simple as that. But with Sue, we are hearing about allegations about bribery and corruption, that he pays money to someone like Jack Dale. Allegations, mind you, way bigger than Watergate's, in my opinion. Suegate is bigger than a Watergate. That's just my opinion. Tom, your closing remarks, please.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal. It needs to be dealt with. It's a big deal. And once again, this is one of those things, Guyana, the country of Guyana, and I'm glad to see that Guyana is going to be seeing brighter days ahead. I know it's going to happen. Might have to go through a little more darkness to get to the brighter side, but the brighter days are coming. With that said, they will come sooner if the government can find a way to have some transparency and to have some accountability so that all people can know what's really happening, right? This something like this with Mr. Sue hanging out there with the Vice News report. It's not good for the country. It just isn't. And there has to be something put in place to be able to deal with things like that going forward if Guyana is going to have its bright day a lot sooner than later.
A lot sooner than later. Tom Anderson, no stranger to us here on 107.1 FM. He takes time out to do his research. He takes time out to be here, to talk to you, the people, and to offer you guys a true sense of what democracy entails, where it is okay to hold your elected officials accountable. And that is what we do here, whether it's the opposition, and we do hold the opposition, those guys in the opposition accountable. We do abuse them out as well. That's why sometimes they run and they hide. We don't see them. But I'll tell you what about the opposition. They need to be more darn proactive. They need to be aggressive when it comes to standing up and holding the PPP more accountable. I'm not saying they're not doing a little something here and there, yes, but they need to stand up, put on their shoes, put on their boots, and be an opposition that will keep the PPP running. We need an opposition that will respond to those folks in Washington when Irfaan speaks to them. The opposition should get an opportunity to say, hey, we have a story to tell too. That's just my opinion, man. Tom, before we go, we're parents. You are a father, great father as well. We have lots of other great fathers out there. And that is why, just and it's good to be back on U.S. soil. I was out for a few days for good reason. But you wouldn't find this in a Jack Yale or a PPP media house. Why? Because this boy happens to be Benjam's son, who taught the university in terms of economics and econometrics. He's preparing to head off to possibly one of two prestigious universities, Oxford and London School of Economics. You wouldn't see that. But I'd like to publicly again say congratulations to my son. And thanks to the thousands of people who have sent their warmest regards and their greetings and their congratulations to Ryan, including yourself. Thank you so much, Tom.
Congratulations, Ryan. Congratulations, man. Good job. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. It's great to see. And, you know, for the people of Guyana, this is what we need to see more of. This is what it's all about, right? It's our families, it's our kids, it's the future of the country, it's the future of our country in the United States. This is what it's all about, you know, and this is great, Mark. I can't say enough, man. Good job, man. Good job, Ryan. Good job. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Tom. Give my regards to your family. We should have that Banks Beer soon. But let us also say thanks to our listeners, all of you. Thank you all so much. Let's keep hope alive. Continue. Don't be afraid of the Anils and these sort of things and so-called threats about talking to FBI. We can talk to the FBI too. We can talk to law enforcement agencies too. In fact, some of us should go in front of the FBI office out there in headquarters in Washington, D.C. to thank the FBI for being so brave to go and sit with Anil and tell Anil that it's not going to be business as usual. There are some money launderers that the FBI wants. There are some drug lords that the FBI wants. There are some gold smugglers that they want. Lots of things. We should congratulate the FBI for that. But Tom, you know a lot of those people that the FBI wants. Lots of them. Anyways, talk to you guys later. Have a great rest of the evening. God bless you all. And God bless that beautiful country, Guyana. Thank you, Tom.
Good night.
Good night.
Welcome. Good night, guys.
So what's the secret? How have you guys made it work so long?
We have a deep, almost spiritual connection.
Small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor has some little children. I'm gonna sing it on the dance floor, really admire them. Small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor has some little children. I'm gonna sing it on the dance floor, really admire them. Yes, they're singing. Ching, ching, ching. In a bar. See for mama. Get 10 fat chickens. And ask you for one. And she won't give me one. You see that girl named Dorothy. She fat like a butter. And she maggot like a chow. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor has some little children. I'm gonna sing it on the dance, that's really admire them. What they're singing? On your carpet, you must be like roses. All you need, bright and shining. You must be, and show me the one. Love the best. When I marry, I give you the ring. First the girls, second the boys. Sunday, Monday, afternoon. We will spend our honeymoon. Oh, small days is still on my mind. it's a good time. Neighbors, some little children. I'm gonna sing it and the dancers really admire them. Join the singing. Hold my house on fire. You'll not run away. He ran for the police to get the water. He only fire down the escalator. Shoot, shoot, shoot. Escalator, shoot, shoot, shoot. And now wipes the lady face. The lady wipes the lady face. And she fell down, and she fell down, and she fell in the ocean too. Oh, small days is still on their mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbors, some little children. I'm really singing and the dancers really admire them. Hear them singing, children, children. Yes, mama. Where you been? Grandmama. What she give you? Bread and cheese. Where is mine? On the shelf. How we gonna get up? Climb on the chair. So what's it called? Pina. Bad picnic. Pina. Wicked picnic. Pina. Oh, small days is still on the mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbors, some little children. I'm gonna sing it and the dancers really admire them. I'm gonna sing it and the dancers really admire them. I'm gonna sing it and the dancers really